everybody. I'd like to introduce SIS a little bit before we get started, and then we'll turn it over to our presenter. SIS was founded in 1996. Our headquarters are in Duluth, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, and we deliver business solutions that help project and service-driven companies unify business processes and applications across the enterprise, delivering better visibility and efficiency. What we do at SIS, we can go from A to Z with a current state assessment, converting into a business process analysis, moving that into a requirements and fit gap analysis. And then from there, once we know what your requirements are, we can help to design, develop, and deploy the right solution for you. We also do custom application development. We do both ERP and CRM platforms. We can do small business, medium-sized businesses, or deployments for hub and spoke for enterprise businesses. We also handle on-premise and cloud deployments. For this webinar, if you have any assistance needs, please email info@sisn.com, and we will have a question and answer session at the end. There's a place in the GoToWebinar for you to enter your questions. Please view in full screen mode. If you're having trouble finding full screen mode, just email the address at the top there, info@sisn.com, and we will assist you. And the webinar is going to be recorded, and you will get a copy or a link to it shortly after the webinar is completed. What we're going to do now is turn it over to my friend Jeff Suen with Microsoft. He's the Dynamics SL Marketing Manager. Jeff, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dan. Thanks so much for inviting me today.
My pleasure.
All right, and with that, let's go and talk about Dynamics SL. So, what's today's session? What are we going to be covering? Well, we've got lots to cover. We're going to do some high-level lifecycle information, some general information, and then we're basically going to go SL 2018 version by version. Now, we've kind of changed the way we've done things, and we'll kind of reflect on that a little bit more at the end. But the whole idea here with SL 2018 is we are doing these cumulative updates, roughly 2 a year. But what does this allow us to do? This allows me to give presentations to companies like SIS and customers like yourselves, and to give you a presentation of what's coming out, but also it gives me a chance to reach and connect with you through people like Dan and the SIS team to say, hey, are there any needs that are out there? Are there any enhancements that are going to make your customers' jobs even easier to do? And what we're able to do is with each of these CU releases, we're actually able to add new features. Now, this is completely different. Usually in the past, we've come out with a new version and we tell you all the great things that we're giving to you and we disappear for years. But that's not the way we work today. We work in an area where we're used to getting frequent updates and additions to it. And that's really how we're changing it. And we're also making the deployment of SL 2018 easier. So as soon as you decide to go up to SL 2018, you go into the latest version. If the next CU releases and you like what's on it, deploy it. If you don't, wait until the next one. Maybe CU4 or CU5 will have something that you really like. You can deploy that, and the way it's built is to make it easier to implement them over top of each other. So it's something we've definitely taken feedback on and something we're really excited to start sharing with you. So what do I mean by life cycle? Well, hopefully we're all familiar with this by now, but there are 2 different types of support. There's mainstream support and extended support. And boy, I forgot to change the slide already, so I apologize. I see one that I've missed. What's the difference? When you're in extended support, you no longer get hot fixes or year-end updates. That's kind of the big difference. So when you're in extended support, let's say you're on SL 2011, if you had an issue, I really hope since 2011, any issues would have been found by then, but unless, if it's hey, something's not working quite right, there are no hot fixes. And if you're using things like payroll or other items like that, there are no year-end updates. Now, I apologize, I forgot to update my little slide. If you're in SL 2015, just a month ago, you went into the extended support lifecycle. So we moved from mainstream to extended support for 2015, and that literally just happened a month ago. So this is the perfect time for you to start working with SIS to plan out, okay, what am I doing? When am I going to start my SL 2018 upgrade? So where we are right now, we're in mainstream support for SL 2018. We'll continue that for the next years. But again, look where you are in this platform. Are you back on 2011? Are you still on 2015? Obviously you're in 7, hopefully you're already in works to move up, but let you kind of see where you are in that whole 5 and 5 years mainstream and 5 years extended. So just to kind of give you that and hopefully give you an impetus to kind of start moving forward there. So let's start going through the features. Let's talk about the things that we want to know. How is this SL 2018 going to make things easier for me? Well, the first thing I just wanted to show you is, how do I know I'm on SL 2018? Well, sometimes the more things change, the more they go back to the way they were. For some reason now, we've added in the SL menu the new Dynamics logo. So we've got the new D in there opposed to the sales. And you'll notice that for some reason, we've decided that colors are not the way it is this year. So we've gone back to one color icons. So single color, blue color, you can take them or leave them or as you like. But more importantly, let's talk about the features. One of the long time items that we've had is that people have always said we need to be able to do some type of approval built into the core screens. So for example, if I'm going in and I'm getting ready to put a voucher adjustment entry in for a vendor, I want to be able to turn on the ability to approve it. So maybe Dan is my manager and he says, Jeff is a great guy, he's great at doing data entry, but you know what? Dan is my manager, he wants to make sure that what I've done is correct. So you can turn on a feature that if Jeff comes in here and tries to release this later, once you turn the feature on, which again is optional, if I try to release something now, later, or whatever, it's going to say, I'm sorry, you have turned on the approval process and it needs to get approved before you can actually release it. So the only thing I can do is submit it for approval. And as I submit it for approval and click on finish, the status of that batch goes to a new status that we haven't had before, which is W, meaning it is waiting for approval. So it's waiting for someone to come and take a look at it. Now, how do you approve it? Well, there are actually 3 different ways that you can approve this batch. The first way is we can do it the old-fashioned way, so to speak. You can have someone, and Dan can come log into the screen itself and start looking at the batch, and it will know that Dan is the approver, so he'll be able to go in here and the screen opens up and says, okay, you're an approver, I'm gonna let you approve things. Now there's 2 different ways you can approve things. I can tell you my preference, but the one way is you could open every single voucher one at a time and choose to approve or reject it. Or after reviewing all the items, all the reference numbers that are out there, you could just choose to approve it at a header level. Again, it's a personal preference. But again, the idea is if I came in here and we looked at things and things looked fine, we could go ahead and approve. Now, one thing to note is as an approver, we are also giving you kind of the master level approval, so to speak. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, that means that you have an option here. If you come in here as an approver, we are going to enable this grid. Now, why would that be? Well, let's say, for example, we see in these 2 line items, Jeff chose the wrong project on the 2nd line item. Now, you have an option as an approver. You can come in here and make the edit and put it to the right project, or you can go ahead and reject it and say, Jeff, I need you to come back in here and fix it. So you've got an option. You can do either or. Either will work. But just to let you know, as an approver, you can go ahead and make those abilities to approve or reject it or make those changes right on the screen itself. So I can put in the reason, it will default to a value, or I can type something in and then it will go forward. Now, once it is in that approved status, then Jeff can open it up and it looks pretty similar to him because now his release now, release later will start working like the way it did before. He can release the batch and move forward. Now, I said that there were 3 different ways, so let's talk about, there are 2 other ways that you can do this. One is something that's through Microsoft. There's 2 technologies that hopefully if you've seen something on SL 2018, and I'll reintroduce them if you haven't, but there are some new features in the Microsoft world that really allow us to do some things that really extend our Dynamics SL solution. One is around flow, whereas it's recently been changed to called the Power Automate feature. Now, what does that do? Well, it allows us in this case to set up an approval process for that batch that we were just looking at. So what can I do? I can come into the screen. I can have it automatically set up to email Dan when there's something that needs to get his approval. So Dan doesn't need to hang out and wait in the screen and wait for things to come up in that status of W. He will get an email. Now it'll give them the high level information, and this is completely customizable. We just chose to choose the header and header level information, batch and header. But if you wanted to get more detailed and you want to throw in some detail lines, that's completely up to you. But at the high level, we can see what's going on, see the vendors that were involved, the dollar amounts, and hey, that's nice to see. I can view that information. Now, if I'm actually on my normal work machine that has SL, I can even click on the link and it'll open up the original entry and I can take a look at it and make sure everything looks good. The nice thing about it is if this information is enough, or if I can customize it to provide enough information, they can actually approve or reject it right in the email. So again, I can choose to approve or reject. I can put my reasons why I approve, why I reject. We've even enhanced it over time. So now the approve or reject and reasons will get updated in SL. So all this kind of works together. Now, so if I choose to approve or reject, in this case, I say to approve, the really neat thing that I like about this as well is I don't have to guess. So I'm Dan, I'm logged into this system. I don't have to guess, is this right? Did this go ahead and did I approve this? Did I reject it? What did I do? As soon as I click on approve on the email itself changes. So it's no longer asking me to approve it, and I can look at any time. Yep, back in April, I went ahead and approved this item. So it is in the system and it's good to go. So like that fact, there's also, as everything has to have an app as well. There's also a flow or a power approval app as well. So if you wanted to do this in an app on your phone or tablet, that is also an option as well. Now I said there are three. What's the third? Well, we've created something called a power app. Again, we'll talk about these here in a little bit later in this presentation, but what Power Apps allow you to do is to be able to create an application that can do certain tasks for you in whatever you're working on, in this case, in Dynamics SL. And so what people were asking is, great, Jeff, now we can do approvals, but is there a way I can take a look at the history of what's going on with these batches? Who entered it in? Who submitted it for approval? Who approved it? You know, all those things. And that's a really good thing to ask. You want to be able to pull it up at a later time and do it. So we created this approval screen or batch status screen that allows us to view what's going on with the batches in our system. Now, what originally it was just going to be a way to view it, but then we said, well, a lot of people are probably going to like to be able to actually take action on it as well. So in this case, when I logged in, it looked at who I was and it said, okay, Jeff, I see you're the approver and there's 2 batches out there that need your approval. So you can not only view the history, but I'm going to allow you actually to take action and approve them. But let's talk about how this process would work. So you can go ahead and change the batch statuses to see different types of batches as you see on the left-hand side. I can then drill into the detail and I see that it was in process, it's now waiting for approval, and I can drill down to the details. And what we're seeing here on the left-hand side is kind of a history. So it needs the approver 1 or approver 2, and right now no one has approved it. So we need 2 people to look at it. These 2 people, as of this time frame, no one has looked at it. But we also on the right-hand side, if there were multiple batches and documents in our batch, we would be able to see multiple documents listed out here at once. Again, giving you that information that's going to help you make that decision. Likewise, we've made it so, hey, if I'm in here, I don't want to have to exit back out. Can I jump to another item? So I can jump right to a different batch. And I can see, yep, oh, this one's a little bit different. It was in process, it was waiting for approval, and now it's waiting for a second approval. So someone actually took action on it. And in fact, yes, I can see the person who was assigned to be approver 1 has taken action on it. And it is now waiting for the person who's the approver to test 2 person to actually go ahead and approve that. So lots of great functionality, but also, as we said, what if I want to go ahead and take an action on it? I am able to, for example, let's say I know that there's something that I want to get approved and I don't have access to it. Let's say this batch 126, you can actually automatically have an email sent. So I can say, go ahead and look for anything that needs to be approved, and anything that's been entered in the last hours, days, whatever you want to choose, hit the send button and it will automatically resend any emails that have gone out. Now, generally those emails are going to get sent, but this is for the situation that I know Jeff just put an item in here and I know that there's someone else, maybe it's Eric needs to approve it and I know he might have missed it. So I'm going to go ahead and force an email out to someone. This gives you some more flexibility on when those emails go out. But as I said as well, is this has been built into a screen where you can take your action yourself. So if Dan comes in here, he can actually choose to approve the item. It'll verify that he wants to do so. And if he says yes, it goes ahead and automatically approves them. So a lot of good stuff there. I know I'm going through a lot of different things, but again, those are kind of how we built. And then just to kind of give some ideas, these things have been enhanced over these CU releases. We've added, initially it was just on-screen approvals. We've added the email approval. We've added that the application here, and we continue to get great feedback and to continue to enhance it. How do you set up approvals? There is a brand new screen called Approval Maintenance where you can choose the screen. You can actually choose what company, so you can have different approvals for different company. And you can turn it on and off, as well as setting up whether an approval is by a group or by an individual user. How does that work? Well, if I choose group, it's going to say anybody that's been assigned to the Approver 1 group, anyone who gets to it first, they win, and it moves on to the second approver. And note that you can have just one approver or you can have two. In this case, you can see we've set it up as a user. So web user 10 will be our second approver. So some great options for you to be able to start looking at. Now, the next enhancement is around our possible value lists. If you were on SL 2015, you know that we made a change in 2015 where you could start searching for fields without actually having to blindly type it in. You could do a drop-down box, choose a specific field, and start typing a value. And you'll also know that one of the things that we changed is that when you do a search, it is doing what we call a contained search. What does that mean? Well, that means when I type in the value ON, it searches through the field name and it only displays anywhere where the value ON exists. So you notice Owen is not the beginning, it's in phone, it's in the son of Jameson, it's in Raymond. So the contains clause gives me some functionality that we haven't had before in SL 2011 and earlier. And then a lot of people said, you know what, I know that you added contains and a lot of people like it, but I'm an old SL user and I want my begins with. So we added the functionality that you can switch between contains and begins with. And if you like begins with and you want to find the first T, it is there. Again, it's just as simple as clicking between the two toggle boxes to choose which one you want to say. You don't have to close and open up the screen. Now the next thing comes into, but what if I want to have my default always be begins with or always be contains? We can do this in the user maintenance screen. And in CU3, we'll see we've actually got some good feedback on this that said, you know, that's great that you can set it up in the user maintenance screen, but why don't we make this something that the users can do themselves? And I'll talk about that in about 7 to 8 minutes about how we've added that. All right. Other things that we've did is people wanted to be able to share things. So for all of my project people, one of the issues with invoice printing is that you want to be able to go ahead and not have to print it out to a printer, right? Sometimes we just want to be able to take that, automatically put it out to a document and put all those documents into one location and then share it with people. So we can print it out into one local drive. We can put it on a SharePoint, which is a DocShare site for your manager. What's the idea there is that I'm going to print out all the things that are for those different managers. From here, it's going to go to a folder, and I can tell that manager, hey, Dan, go and log into your SharePoint DocShare site. It's a SharePoint site that he can look at and see all the things that are out there that are coming towards him, or for a project. So some really great enhancements here for whether it's a preliminary invoice or a final invoice. That functionality has been added. The next is for our financial people, making a vendor inactive. Now you had the idea to kind of put them on hold or active, and they had some limited functionality, but for some reason we never had inactive. So we talked to people out there, said, what does inactive mean to you? And what inactive meant to the people we were talking to is that, one, no new purchase orders should be able to be made for a vendor who is inactive. Okay, makes sense. Number two, no new voucher adjustment entries can be made. We're cutting them off. And three, this is the big one, no new checks for a vendor that is inactive. So while we do that, we can do that anytime. Now, what are we doing? We're removing those people from your PV lists. So they are no longer able to see any of those that are inactive. Now, the next question we have is like, so how does this work? Well, one of the things that we can do is when you go ahead and try to make a vendor inactive, we are going to give you some warnings in some cases. So for example, let's say you've got a vendor out there, you're making them active, but there's some purchase orders that are still sitting out there that may not are going to be a problem, because if we don't leave them open, then if we turn off that vendor, those purchase orders probably won't be able to be received against, or potentially not be able to be invoiced. So we'll let you do it, but we're going to warn you. Next, there are certain situations where we're not going to let you do it. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, if you set a vendor up to be a default for something, whether it's subcontracts or a primary item vendor in an inventory, if we remove them, then some processes outside of what we're doing will be impacted, because it's going to say, hey, trying to go ahead and set this up a new thing for this vendor, and they're not in the system anymore. So we won't let you do it if they are set as the default vendors for areas. So we'll have to stop you, say can't do it, and then allow you to go ahead and make those changes. But I think those make sense, hopefully, to you as well. What have we impacted? Oh, just a couple screens, as you can see here. So this is all the field screens that have vendors in there. And these are all the screens that, by turning them inactive, we are going to go ahead and hide those vendors. Now, as of note, please note that making a vendor inactive is the flip of a switch, but making a vendor active is also as simple as that. So don't think of it as we're getting rid of them. It's, we're having an issue with Jeff as our vendor. We want to inactivate him for now. And the hope is tomorrow or the next day or the next week, we will straighten things up and we'll be able to start using him. But if he's inactive and we don't worry, we're going to keep him from being able to be used going forward. The next thing is just an enhancement for my project people out there. One of the common issues that we had is, I hope you're all familiar with this concept inside of the journal transaction screen, where this new screen will pop up that will allow you to make an exact reversing entry of a journal transaction. Why, Jeff? Well, Jeff was doing data entry and he messed everything up. The credits went to debits, the debits went to credits. He really, really messed it. I just want to make it go away, so to speak. So that reversing entry is a complete opposite entry of it. Can't be touched, can't be edited, and all we can do is release that batch. And we know the net of it is that those things will cancel each other out. So that's been there. There's a reverse and correcting, making 2 batches or making a copy of that. So that's great functionality, but one of the issues it had is that if you were doing a journal transaction for a project entry, it was not flowing back into the project correctly. So the credits were being recorded as negative to the project, debits were being positives. We've made that change, so maybe you've shied away from it because there was an issue that was identified, and we went ahead and made that adjustment. So now it is working exactly as it should. Now, another thing around the project area is the travel and expense report entry. This is a screen generally that you would use remotely via the web to do your time expense entry, or in this case, your travel expense entries. And then one of the things that you and I know probably is at your company like mine, we're told, hey, when you go ahead and do an expense report, you need to attach your receipts. Well, sometimes I'm sure people are approving receipts and so forth, and the managers is out there and maybe they go ahead and approve it. But when it comes back to the accounting people, they're going to look and say, wait a second, there are no receipts in this system at all for this. In the past, if it had gone past a certain stage, like being completed or whatever, they could not attach any more receipts. So in this case, if the accounting department calls up Jeff and says, Jeff, you have not put in your receipts, they were kind of out of luck. They'd say, yeah, that's right, here are my receipts, but you could not tie them together. So based on some great requests, we said, okay, we will make these icons always active, no matter the status. So completed, wherever it happens to be, you can always attach receipts to the items that are out there. Some SL homepage enhancements. One of the things that was available since SL7, if I'm correct, was the ability to view a web page inside of Dynamics SL. In this case, I'm going ahead and showing you the customer source page, which is a great page to know what things are coming out. If you were to go there today, you would see this says Microsoft Dynamics SL 2018 CU3 available now, and give you some great information about that. But again, the idea that we can display a web page inside of there. Maybe this is an intranet site, maybe this is a department site that you want to display, and be able to remind people, hey, make sure when you're in the system today that this is going on. So it gives you a great way to kind of display information in there. So what we did for SL 2018 is we updated it and made it so it works with the latest and greatest browsers, because if you were using it today, you would probably run into some sites where it might give you an error messages. So we've gone ahead and enhanced it to work with the latest and greatest browsers that are out there. Now, to make this feature something that you might have not used before, but to make it easier for the admins to kind of distribute it out there, we added the capabilities that inside of the user maintenance screens, an admin can type in an address that they want and choose the copy to home page feature, which will allow me to copy this home page, let's say it's from all of the people in, an AP group or a specific user. You could copy this address and it will automatically start defaulting and displaying inside of their Dynamics SL. Going on, so that is our SL 2018 and CU1 items. Going on to CU2. One of the big enhancements was that, Jeff, we go into the GL batch screen. We like to see some additional information. So the first thing they said is that generally when I'm using this screen, Jeff, I'm coming to look for any glaring issues. So I come into the batch, I see the company it's for, I see the balance, the journal type, the batch control. But what I really need to know is I'm looking for some errors where people potentially put in some wrong information. So for example, Jeff went ahead and he put in 06-2025. That is incorrect. So what we've added to it is one, now Dan, when he's reviewing the GL batches, will be able to see the period to post. Second, we did is we made it so that if he has the proper rights for this screen, which again, we can set this up as at individual levels, that Dan is the head of the general ledger batches. So we're going to enable it so he can come into this specific screen and go into initialize mode, and he can go ahead and make that change from 2005 to the year that was supposed to be, which happened to be 2004. He can change that to 2004, save it, and then go ahead and release the batch. Now, when he releases the batch, if we were going to go back into the original batch and open up, you'll notice that it went to period 2004 and not 2025. So again, it's saving Dan time because as a manager, he can quickly see, make adjustments, and move forward with the releasing those batches. Now, the next thing was a big feature for me. I do lots of demonstration of our time entry system. And one of the features in there is a screen called the week maintenance screen. Again, this is for my project people. Let me skip this and kind of go right into it. Basically, this upper section did not exist before. So what did this mean? That means that if I'm getting ready to do a demo, I have to go in and type in a week ending date, a period, labor period, a time card period, a fiscal period, go to the next line. Now, if you're having to do this for the entire year, that's a lot of typing. And sometimes, to be honest with you, if you type too much and you go too fast, sometimes you can kind of lose your way and you can type things in wrong and you're like, oh, I got so far, but this last couple lines were wrong. I don't want to have to miss it. Do I have to save it? Did I fix it? Did I type it right? Well, this whole section above is really built around this idea is that, you know what, let's make it easier on you. One, you come into the screen, you tell it what date do you want me to start creating time cards and what date do you want me to end. So they're drop-down boxes where I can choose the dates and select them. Then I'm going to tell them what kind of time card period it is. It weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly. I can choose those items, choose what I want to do. And then if I hit begin processing, what's going to happen is you see this is already there. I hit begin processing and it pops up a preview screen. Now, what I like about the preview screen is it's completely editable. So if I went in here and decided, oh, you know what, this is a short week, I need to change the salary factor to 0.75 or 0.25, I can come into the screen, make those adjustments, say, yep, that looks good to me, click the OK button, and it automatically adds them on to the end. So what's the benefit? Well, I didn't have to type those in. Again, yes, 3 is not enough, but a lot of people are doing this months at a time or years at a time. It's going to make your lives a lot easier. So I'm really excited about this feature, and hopefully you guys are too. Now, the next thing that we did is around projects and tasks. And we've had the start and end dates of project and tasks in this system since the beginning of time, at least from what I can remember. But the end dates really didn't do anything. They were just there for informational purposes. So what we did is we got a lot of suggestions that said, you know what, let's do something with that end date. Let's make it mean something when we're doing our data entry. So you have 2 different levels, a project and a task level. So at a project level, what will happen is if we choose project level and we turn it on, what will happen is that when a project reaches its end date, it will no longer be available to enter your time and expenses against. Oh, that's kind of cool. So that date really is doing something now. Similarly, if you're doing it for task, what will happen there is it will look at the task's end date. If you're not familiar with that, each task can have its own end date. So you might say task 1 ends at the beginning of January, task 2 ends at the beginning of February, task 3 ends at the beginning of March. You don't need to worry about going in and turning things on and off. What this will enable you to do is set up those levels so people stop putting data against them so that you will not be able to choose them. Now, the cool thing about it too is that if a project has, 5, 10 different tasks, it will show up until all of the tasks, and if I do a task level, until all of the tasks are done. Now, when all the tasks have went past their date, then the entire project will stop showing up, which I think is a really, really cool feature, to be honest with you. So what does this mean? Again, in the project maintenance, it's a new set of fields. And in your time entry and data entry, it's going to be for these screens that you see here, but it also is included in Dynamics SL's 28 web apps. So if you're using web apps, that same bit of functionality can be used with SL 2018 as well. So again, very excited about that. And we got some great feedback, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a little bit. Invoice adjustment posting. The request came in is that, yes, the selection criteria that you currently have is great, but sometimes we want to get more detailed. I want to go down and select a specific set of projects or select the selected invoices and adjustments that I want to choose. I want to be able to choose them and have them post. So we're giving you much more flexibility about what you are posting in the invoice and adjustment posting process. So again, great feedback, a solution that's come based on that. Now for our service people, this was a service call enhancement. One of the things that was built into the screen is as soon as you created a service call, that site ID locked down, can't change it. Well, if you're doing a quote, you might not know exactly where it's going. So if I'm working with Adultum, I'm not sure if we're going to their headquarters, not sure if we're going to their Pennsylvania office, whatever it happens to be. So when I'm doing my quote, this site ID field is now enabled. This means that at any time I can change it in the quote status to another address. And then once I'm finally done with it and I've moved it over, then it does lock it down once we've gone ahead and created that. But now we've added the capabilities to make it enabled while you're in that quote status. And last but not least, now we come to the things that we've added just recently, just several months ago here in CU3. So what are some of those things? The first thing is we got, in one of these many presentations, people said, Jeff, great idea with the whole begins with contains, but you know what? It shouldn't really be something that we bother our admins to set up. So we've added under the standard options function, you'll see there's 2 new options listed here. One, to be able to set what your default behavior is. Again, as we spoke of in the demonstration, you can switch it back and forth as you want, but here we can say at least what would you like the value to default to. The next is we got a lot of requests that said, yes, we love the fact that we can go ahead and select to approve things before we go ahead and pay our vendors. How about journal transactions? And I said, how about yes? So now the journal transaction screen can be turned on to set up the approval process. Again, same idea. If I try to release it now, it must be approved. Pretty much everything that I showed you for paying vendors. So again, we can approve things straight in the journal transaction screen. We can approve things through email. We can do approvals through the application screen that we created as well. So all those same things have been added to the journal transaction screen. So continuing to enhance the features that we have and then take that information and those items, and extend them out to other areas of the product as well. What's the next approval screen? You let me know. That's the kind of things that we'd like to know from you, because I know what I want to do, but getting your feedback helps us understand what's going to give us the most bang for the buck for our customers. Just to show you that it is true and it's not just some smoke screen, there is that same screen with a journal transaction setup to be set up for approval. So we have that functionality in there as well. Just like we had in General Ledger, we got great feedback on our release AR GL batches screen. So we added it to the AR screen. So now you can go ahead and look at those bad entries, make the adjusting entries. And the same thing with our accounts payable batches. So AP, AR, GL batch screens all now have that same functionality. You can view, look for the bad entries, go into initialize mode. If you have that access rights, make those adjustment entries and move forward. Now the next was, hey, we really like the idea, Jeff, that you'd put this end date validation for time and expense entry, but I would actually like to extend it out to also different modules. So right now, as I said, it's only going to go into the time and expense entry type entries. Now we can extend it out to GL, AP, and AR. Again, same idea. The none goes ahead and leaves it off, meaning that there is no end date validation. The project sets it. When it looks, it's going to search at a project level and turn projects on and off based on their end dates versus tasks where it's going to do it at the specific task level. Now, this is pretty much the same, so this is going to look and sound very familiar. The big difference is the only screens that we've done it for financial lines were the big ones, meaning the journal transaction screen, voucher adjustment entry, and invoice and memo. Those are the screens that we got the most people saying, yes, we agree. These are the top 3 screens that we're going to want to turn it off. So great new functionality. We added the enhancement knowing that we were going to change it. We were going to add to it going forward, got some great feedback. They chose the screens that they wanted, and we continue to move forward. We've got even more requests around this ideas to continue to enhance it because people really like this functionality of being able to set it up once, make those dates mean something, and this means that less babysitting of the data and knowing that things are going to turn off when you want them to turn off. The last new feature around this is around our dashboards. So you've probably seen a demonstration tour before where we've talked about this, and I'll show you here actually in a couple of minutes, around Power BI and the power of Power BI and Microsoft Dynamics SL. So you probably see me, and you will see me in a few minutes, talk about our project dashboards. So we wanted to go ahead and give you some more opportunities to start looking into Power BI. And we're going to go into Power BI, Power Apps, and Flow here in a second. But this particular one is a Power BI dashboard geared towards customer information. So if you look at the top of the screen, this is kind of your filter. So what can I do in my filters? Well, if you are multi-company, you can choose exactly what displays. Is it just one company? Is it all of them? You can also choose what displays, whether it's by all customer classes or one, all customer statements, but also you have the capability of selecting all customers or a specific customer. So maybe you're looking for some information about a specific customer and you want to choose 1 or 2 customers, you can do that. Same with your projects. You can actually choose 1 or 2 multiple projects or customers that are out there and have the information on the screen go ahead and reflect that. You also have a date range. So we have periods in SL, but again, in a lot of things that we have here, we can set what those ranges are. So I want to set from the beginning of the month to the current date, which happened to be the 15th at that time, or I can do it for the whole month, whatever I have to have here. And this information go ahead and changes what is sitting out there. So what it allows me to do is look at the total number. This is showing me right here, the total number of receivable documents that are out there. This is the total amount. And the total that are past due is this number, and this is the total dollar amount that goes around with it. So it's giving you that first view. So this is again geared towards somebody whose job to make sure that we're okay on our receivables, giving you that quick high-level view, and then allowing you below to see the details. So I can see my top 10 customers by balance. So in this case, it's not good to be a top 10 customer, but I can see that we've got Raymond K. Sam, and these people here are very high. We've put some color shading in there. Again, you can adjust it. Some red here, they're over 100. Yellow, you're over 50 and so forth. But again, some adjustments that you can make to that. But again, it's giving that visual cue. You know what, I need to contact these top 3 people to see what's going on. Then as you would expect, the top 10 documents by balance, and hopefully you're seeing they're gonna kind of equate to those people that are sitting out there, but we can get a little bit more detail. Yes, it's 129,000, but how many documents does Raymond K have? Okay, it's 1. So I can see the information here. I can take a look at it and drill into the details. It's in company 70. Let's go take a look at reference number 76 and see what's going on. Again, the goal here is to give you, at this type, we're looking at the accounts receivable summary. We also created one called sales summary. Oops, I think I clicked. Sorry about that. There we go. So now we're at the sales summary. Now we're able to see, well, what's going on sales-wise? We've got 95 sales documents that are out there that a total of $2.63 million, looking pretty good. And then we have our top 10 customers by sales and our top 10 documents by sales. So we're able to see what's going on with that information as well. Okay, similar to the AR, but this is from a sales side. Again, we can filter it. And also I need to note this little arrow here. If we click here, there is more information behind these that allows us to kind of kind of hide this information, hide the filters, and there's additional information that can be displayed as well. AR detail-wise, we're going to look here at customer class balances by year. So different customer classes are out there and showing what the balances are. We can look at the customer balances specifically. We can also look at the document balances that are out there as well. We can then look at an AR aging and see exactly how we're doing. Obviously, this is a majorly demo database, why everything is very, very overdue. But picture this in a way of your accounts, aging account balances would show up here in different colors. You can see exactly where they're at. And then our sales detail. Again, you had our AR summary, sales summary, our AR detail, AR aging, and then our sales detail to give us the details of what our sales are that are out there. So we bring these to you as really a starting point. We know that you're probably going to want to expand them. And the nice thing about a Power BI dashboard, it is not delivered locked. It's delivered completely open, so you can take it and run with it and make it your own. All right, that's some W2 things. So that's going to take me into my next section. And I apologize, I'm not skipping over here. Actually, I should talk about this. We did put our year-end updates out. If you're an SL 2015 or 2018, you have access to these. Now, the big change is not around W2s. I think there was a very slight change in W2s. A line or something was moved or something like that. But in the W4 world, which we don't really do, the big change that we did is there is a big change around marital status. So we've added this idea of marital statuses because we know that if you're doing W4s, that you're going to need that support to be able to store and say exactly. So there's new like head of household and so forth. So you have a nice little detailed description of all those things here. So know that we understood that we need to make that change. We know we don't support and put out those items, but we have them out here for you to look at as well. Now we've kind of summarized some of the things that we've done here in SL 2018, CU1, CU2, CU3, and we are working away right now at CU4 as we speak. But I wanted to take a quick moment here to kind of talk about the 3 technologies, and we've actually talked about all of them. We just haven't brought them out specifically. 3 technologies that I really think are going to change the way that you do business, and I'm really excited for these. One is called Power BI, which we just spent some time walking through. Power Automate, or as it used to be called, Flow, which I've referred to as Flow today, and Power Apps. To me, these are the things that you can work with Dan and team at SIS and really start taking advantage, because it's going to change the way that you do your business. Yes, I am continuing to put new features, but you're going to see I spend a lot of time with our teams building things around these technologies, because these are things that you can start taking advantage of today, whether you're in 2015 or 2018, and really, really, again, to me, change the way you do business. Again, at a high level, Power BI, as you can see, is a tool for doing dashboarding. Jeff, we've seen it before. There's some great opportunities here for you. We showed the customer dashboard. We have a project dashboard. And to me, again, these are only just the tips of the iceberg. We're going to show you good examples of how you can take that data inside of SL and share it with the people who need it to be able to look for those changes, those oddities, those things that are going on. You can see up here at the top, we're looking at labors and expenses. We're looking at gross margin below here. We'll be able to see, and this is kind of interesting. It's showing me gross margin. The green line is last month. The blue bar is this month. So I can see things are increasing. Some things are shrinking here. Maybe I need to take a look at them. We're able to look at revenue and labor expense, so we can kind of drill down for that information, really kind of see what's going on inside our projects. Also, we have the ability, I showed you the bar across the top in the new report. This report also has that kind of idea where you can choose exactly what we're reporting on by year, by multiple years, by one period, by multiple periods, and so forth. So you have a whole area that you can select, and it doesn't quite, you don't have to re-pull the data. It's really, you choose the value, it goes ahead and changes it on the fly so you can view that information. Next, the similar report, that was a month to date type of report. This is an inception to date, so show me from the beginning when this project started, because projects aren't always just year projects. Show me from the beginning of the project to now how we're doing. And then this last one, which is really an interesting one, where it kind of shows you the top and bottom. What do we mean by that? What are those projects that are your top projects, which those are your bottom projects? The ones that are top, you're going to want to pay attention to make sure they continue to be your top projects. What are those ones that are your bottom projects? Because, well, they probably need some assistance, some help. Let's go help them out. Same with your top 5 project managers and your top 5 bottom project managers. Again, continue to make sure those top ones are getting what they need, and make sure those ones on the bottom, we're working with them to take them off the bottom of being a bottom project manager. So good information here. Again, these are great starting points. Work with your team at SIS to understand what Power BI can do for you. Now, the next thing is Power Apps. Now, in the olden days, if you had a need, let's say, you know what, I need my salespeople out there to be able to get access to information in SL, but they're not going to be in the office when they get this access. So what they do today, well, they call me and I have to talk them through it. They have to ask me, I need to search it up. So there are different tasks like that that are in the system. And in the past, we would say, oh, well, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Maybe you worked on doing remote connectivity, which is fine. But the idea here is that in the past, we said, hey, I want an app where they can only go in, see these customers, see the inventory items they've purchased, see the status of their sales orders. You say, well, can't do it. Well, with Power Apps, we're kind of changing the whole way you think about it. Power Apps are built around what is a task that you want someone to complete. Let's create a really quick application that I can connect to your SL data that doesn't require a developer to do. I'll let you create it, arrange it, make it look the way you want, and then let's share it with the people in your company who need it. Again, this is not something we would have ever thought of. In the past, it's like, okay, well, we need to go to have someone build an app. We're going to sit down for days and years designing it out because I don't have a tool to create anything. That's completely the opposite of what it is with Power Apps. You can create things on the fly to build, and we'll show you here an example here in a couple seconds. So it can be as simple as I just want an application that's going to show me, show me my inventory items, or it can be really detailed, show me the details of our, and the nice thing about Power Apps, Power BI, and Power Automate, they all work together. So maybe I'm displaying a Power BI dashboard inside of my Power App that allows me to get to this and so forth. So they can be as simple or as complex as you need them. And the great thing about them is you can deploy them onto any device. So it's not just Windows, it'll go up to your iOS, Android devices as well. And the third technology is Power Automate, or as it used to be called, Flow. And the idea behind it is, we've seen some of this already. One, on the very, very right is you have the ability to set up an approval process. So there is an approval process, as we showed in the previous demonstrations, that's built right into it. It can be used for collecting data and pushing it over. It can be used to synchronize files between 2 different systems. So maybe you have some different systems that are out there that you want to bring data from something into SL and so forth. It can be used to do that. And what I'm going to show you off here is you can be used to get notifications. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. Now, I show you it here, but know that for Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, all 3 of these technologies have built-in connectors into pretty much everything. I know that's kind of a generic statement, but it really connects to a lot of different things. So I am obviously giving you the focus of what it can do for SL and what we've built out, but it can connect to anything. Let's say you want to get Power Automate and have it automatically email you the weather or text you the weather forecast every morning at 5 in the morning when you get up. You can do that with Power Automate. That's a functionality that you can build in that's already got something built into it to connect and do it. So there's a lot of things. And that's why I think, yes, this is going to help you with SL, but I think this is something that you can use across your entire company, not just the SL world. That's what excites me about it. So let's go through, first, let's talk about this Power Automate. So since we just talked about what do we include with SL? Well, we've created a bunch of automatic emails that can be sent to you when an account is created, a customer is created, an inventory item is created, a project is created, and I think I'm missing one here. I think vendor is created. So we can automatically email the appropriate people when these things get entered into SL. So you don't need to come in, at the end of the month or weeks later and go, wait a second, how did this vendor ever get set up? Who allowed this? Well, someone might have put it in, but if you're not getting notified, you're not going to find it until you actually look for it. Here, we'll let you know as soon as, once it goes in, we'll notify you as it gets sent off for that day. We can also do overages. So a customer is over $10,000. We can automatically email you. A vendor balance is over 5, whatever it happens to be. Tell us who you want to email. You set it up. You choose who you want to be emailed. Also with projects, let me know when my project is going over budget. And last but not least is that batch approval. So whether it's AP or GL batch approval, the GL ones just got added here in CU3. We can automate that. And also something that we don't have in standard SL is the ability to automatically send customer past due payments. We come up with some automated emails that you can send automatically, but you can edit them to make them say or look the way you want. Now, what I wanted to show you real quickly is we do have some pretty good, nice looking emails, I think, that you can automatically send. Here's your one with the customers letting people know. I blanked out the names because there were some silly names in here. Inventory items, being able to, in this case, share with someone. This is sharing with Gary that these are the items that are past due. Now these are, the nice thing about these as well, these are completely customizable. We're showing you examples where we've attached a copy of the data inside of an Excel file. We've emailed you, we put nice little colors and columns. You can change that to your colors you like. But the idea is these are great starting points. And just like the Power BI, Power Automates and Flow are completely customizable to your needs. So yes, we deliver these to you. They're yours to take, but there's yours to take and make your own. Now, going back to something hopefully you've probably seen me do before, we'll walk through, is the idea is when we first came out with Power Apps and Flow back when SL 2018 came out, we wanted to create an items that you could take and understand how Power Apps and Flow could work together. So the idea is that we wanted to create an app. So we created an app. One is a phone app that you see right here, and we can tell by the narrow view of it. But this one allows me to go ahead, search for customers, see their current balances and so forth. And we also created one in a tablet form. Obviously, we have more room so we can display more information. But the idea behind it is that I can be on my tablet or on my phone, wherever I happen to be, and I see Baldwin, wow, that's a lot of money. Let's go ahead and drill into the details. And we can see exactly where this is falling into. It's going into the CHS company. There's a little bit in CBS, but I'm not really worried about that. But I can view this information. Now, the nice thing about it here is we've added 2 little icons that'll look at your email address, and I can hit this icon and automatically email someone to say, hey, can you tell me why your balance is so large? Again, I can also, if I'm on my phone, click this icon and it will pass that email, that phone number to my phone. Now, what's the scenario here? It's great when I'm out, I can see my customer's balance maybe before I'm going in and doing a discussion with them. Now, the other thing as well is if I'm remotely and I want to give people access, I can turn on the feature here of running an AR aging. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, let's say I know we just got paid $350,000. It's still showing us we have 408. Well, I can be remote, and believe it or not, I can choose my statement cycle, hit the button, and I can actually call to my server. It's not running local, it's calling on the server, and the server will go ahead and run the aging process. Now, if I hit execute and say yes, it's going to go ahead and automatically run that process. Now, what I've added to it is a Power Automate that says, hey, whenever the aging process is run remotely, go ahead and make a copy of the aging and send it off to these people. So I've sent it off to this person. I purposely left every single field in there. I'm sure there's a lot of these fields you're not going to want to, but just to show you everything in your aging table can be sent to you. And then you can go ahead and choose exactly what you like to send, remove those ones that don't make sense, and be able to receive that information. So it's a great way to be able to share information, and it's really going after a certain area, people who want to know what's going on with their customer and their balances and being able to see what they are, get more information, and go from there. Now, real quickly, as we kind of wrap up here, we're not going to do a web apps demo. Obviously, we don't have enough time, but know that again, web apps continues to be worked on. Web apps is our remote access to Microsoft Dynamics SL via the web, built to run on Androids, apps, Windows machines, Android devices, and so forth. We continue to put out new hot fixes for SL 2018 and new features every month. So again, obviously we will address any hot fixes, but we've continued to add new features. I'm just going to let this load here while I talk about it. For example, there was a request that some people, like the way the product works. Some people wanted to work differently. The nice thing about it is we're able to add new feature functionality to turn things on and off as you need. One of the things that someone asked for is that we want to be able to tell somebody that you have to put 40 hours in each week. You can't put 39, you can't put 26, you have to put 40. Makes a lot of sense. We added a feature, and if you turn it on and someone gets to the end of the week and they try to submit their time card and it's not at 40, it's going to not let them move forward with it. So again, great feedback. We continue to get new feedback requests. I'd love to hear yours as well to enhance this feature. And then another item just to point out before we kind of wrap up here is some of the non-project. Obviously, you can see the dark blues are my projects for the most part. Obviously, it was the previous solution was very project-centric, but we've added new things like the ability to run a report remotely without having to install Crystal or worry about any of that stuff. We can actually run a report that runs on the server and it's not running on app server. It's running its own service, and you can actually get access to those reports remotely. Something that you might think about for some of your employees to be able to get access. Maybe they're constantly asking you for reports or asking you to run quick queries. They can do that remotely as well. So our roadmap, where do we continue to go on from here? I have to update this, so you can see, but where are we right now? Again, we came out just at the end of the year. We came out with CU3. Where are we going forward from here? Well, let's load this real quickly. We are getting ready to release Dynamics SL 2018 CU4 here in the Q2 of this calendar year. So basically twice a year, we're releasing things. We've already got a bunch of items that we've asked for. And in fact, we're probably gonna have to push some of these out to CU5, which will be roughly 6 months later than that. So we're really excited. We've got some good feature requests that we're getting out there. Again, I really ask you to reach out to Dan and team about these things, about things, sometimes it's the little things that really, really help a lot of people out. A lot of these items in here have been long time items that have been in the list, I'm not gonna lie, but there are also a good substantial items that are items that have come up over the last year or so, where some people said, hey, love it, here's the one area that I always have a problem with, or would be great if we could do this, and so forth. So there are a fair of those in there as well. So I'm always interested in getting your feedback on where SL can work better for you. Now with that, that's the end of my presentation on SL CU3. I'm gonna go ahead and bring Dan in to talk about why you should start thinking about upgrading to SL 2018 CU3, and also to open up for any questions that might be up there. Dan?
Hey, Jeff, great job. Thanks for going through everything on Dynamics SL 2018. And I'd like to talk to everybody about why you should upgrade. Well, for one thing, if you find any of the information that Jeff just shared with you, if any of it strikes kind of a little nerve that you have, and it's a feature that you'd like, that's obviously one thing that it's going to drive you to do an upgrade. The other thing is that Microsoft Dynamics SL 2018 has been certified on all the newest and latest and greatest operating systems and SQL servers and things like that. We have a few customers, and I'm sure there are others out there that are running older versions of Dynamics SL on older versions of Windows. As you know, Windows 7 and the equivalent Windows Server 2008 has now gone into extended support, meaning there are no updates coming out for those. So there's a lot of risk running your Dynamics SL, your ERP system on unsupported platforms. Another reason we have here, employees are spending more time entering information manually. A lot of the things that Jeff described here is to automate the process, taking a few keystrokes out of the process, taking a few emails out of the process, being able to deliver information yourself, reliable information to yourself, by yourself, without having to bring an army of people or several extra people into the process. So there are a lot of things moving forward. Moving forward to Dynamics SL 2018, you're going to get a lot of benefits. At SIS, we are experts in delivering the upgrades. We have a process that has been proven for us to go in and find any changes, customizations, integrations, things like that you have invested in your system, and moving those forward seamlessly so that whenever you go live on the new version of the system, that everything works as it should. We do lots of upgrades all the time throughout the year, this year, last year, for the last many, many years, and so we've got our process down. And so if you come and ask us what's it going to take to move you to SL 2018, we can give you a very, very good definite answer to that. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that since SL 2015 has just recently gone to extended support, there are not going to be any year-end updates provided for SL 2015 this year. And so that's another driving factor. If your company is sensitive to, we don't know what's going to be coming in terms of 1099s or in W-2s and things like those are usually the two areas of the system that are sensitive to year-end updates, and we don't know what's coming out for the next year. You don't want to get caught to where your system isn't going to be able to provide those documents. So if you have, especially if you have things like in 1099 where you've got the electronic, you have enough employees or vendors where you have to send those things electronically, it's going to be difficult to handle that scenario. So think of all those things in terms of your planning this year for an upgrade if you're not already on Dynamics SL 2018. So that's about all I have. We have a question and an answer boxed here in your GoToMeeting. If you have any specific questions about anything that I have said or that Jeff has said, we have a few minutes left. Go ahead and enter your questions into the panel, and we will go ahead and get you some answers.
Hey, Dan, what if I want to learn a little bit more about SL 2018 CU3? Are there any fact sheets or anything that I can see that I can download?
So inside of this GoToWebinar, there are some links to some fact sheets, and I'm an organizer on this meeting, so I'm not sure if this is visible to everybody there, but it should be. You should be able to just click on those. And if you're having trouble clicking or getting them, whenever we send out the email with the link to this webinar, we'll also send out links to these specific documents so you can download them and share them with your team. Thanks, Jeff, for the reminder there. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions unless I've got something going on with my GoToWebinar. Jeff, are you seeing any questions? Okay.
No. Okay.
Okay, they're coming in now. Is there a Power App to create a project versus web apps?
Out of the box, no, there isn't, but you've got Dan and team, and you most definitely could. You could definitely connect to that. Again, like you said, web apps is the only way currently. You might create a, figure out what are the, obviously there are key fields, but most likely, yes, you can connect to Dynamics SL and go ahead and create that new project and create the fields that you need or make a lookup to view that information. So most definitely it isn't available, but again, it's completely open. A Power App can be written to do that. Great question.
Yeah, thank you. Next question is, are Flow, Power Apps, and et cetera delivered with the CU3 or the SL 2018 products?
Good question. All of the latest and greatest stuff would be with SL 2018 CU3. That's going to have all the Power Apps, all the Power BI reports, all the Power Automates and Flow. All of those are included in the latest and greatest. So what we'll do is each CU release, we put all of those things together. So you don't need to worry about going back to one to grab some or two to grab the other. Those are all together in one.
Yeah, so to clarify what Jeff just said, those are the templates that are delivered. The actual Flow, Power Apps, and Power BI those are cloud products that you have to install or download from Microsoft.com. Those particular technologies are not included because they're readily available just from a link on Microsoft. But the things that are specific to Dynamics SL, those are delivered with the SL 2018 products. The next question is, how long until the webinar recording will be available? We will have it published up on our website, and it'll be available indefinitely. And so there's no expiration date as far as I'm aware of. I have a question for you, Jeff, and it's regarding the project end date on the one screen you showed. Mm-hmm. And one of the new features was that there are checkboxes for GL, AP, and AR, so you can turn on and off that. So what is the effect there with time cards? Just out of the box, if you set it to, regardless of the GL, AP, and AR, if you put an end date in there, does it prevent time cards from people entering a time card after the date is expired?
Exactly. So the original idea was just to do time and expense entry. So exactly as you said, time and expense entry is impacted when you turn on that GL end date functionality. So exactly as you said, if you're in web apps or you're in the rich client, those projects will stop showing up or those tasks will stop showing up as soon as you hit the end date. The request is that, hey, that's great, but can we expand it out to the financial modules as well? So we took those 3 main screens out of GLAPR, and they can also do it as well.
Okay. All right. Well, I believe those are all of the questions. Let me see. I think there might be a 4th one that just came in. Are there any future consideration for time cards that handle a compressed work schedule? Something other than, I would believe, 40 hours or like a 980. So
Dan,
I believe Project FlexTime has that capability, doesn't it?
There is some, and have you guys done some stuff with 980s in your with SIS, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, I mean, you can handle things like that. It doesn't have to be necessarily a 40-hour work week. There are ways to configure that. So it's not really a web app configuration. That's something that's in the time and expense module.
Exactly.
Okay. And we do have another one saying, are there any Power BI dashboards for the service module created? And I know the answer to that is no, but Jeff, are there any in the works?
Currently they are not, but Dan and your team, I'd say you guys could probably help them out with that, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, and that's the power of it. Yes, we can give you the beginnings, and you could even take one of our reports that's connecting to SL and kind of give you an idea, but Dan's team can really kind of jumpstart you. They can help you move forward with that. And I know then there's a capability of doing it, whether it's a Power App, Power BI, Power Automate, all those things can connect to the SL database. So those are all opportunities, and I'm glad you're asking it, because that's what I want to see you do. I want you to take this and say, this is great starting point, Jeff, but we're going to run with it and move forward with it.
Yes. Okay, I think we're out of questions, and we're a little bit over. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around with us and listening and helping us with some questions here. Okay, so we will be getting back to all of you with our next webinar. Should be coming up in a month, and I appreciate very, very much. If you have any comments or questions or anything like that, please send us an email, dpv@sisn.com, or you can call the 800 number there at the bottom. And everybody, have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you.